Welcome, basketball fans, to the best fantasy basketball podcast on the internet. This is a show where we share the best advice, current news, rankings, and more for all things fantasy basketball for our own Dynasty League. I'm your host, Josh Browning, here along with my co-hosts, Canyon and David. Canyon, David, let's talk turkey. How was your Thanksgiving, guys?
Well, you know how mine was because you were there, Josh. It was pretty good. We didn't have great turkey. I screwed up the brine and our turkey turned out dry. So overall a failure, and I'll be hanging myself after this episode.
I thought it was pretty good. So
mine was all right. But seeing as I'm the only one here that's married, I got to go to 2. So that instantly just vaults me ahead of whatever y'all did.
So so how many, we'll do this in the essence of the episode, which is top 10 this week. How many, top 10, how many pounds did you gain or lose? It's like,
dude, I don't believe in numbers. You know what I mean? I'm more of a, how do I feel type guy. That's
how do you feel?
How do I feel into my rankings on this top 10 episode as well. Not too much focus on the numbers.
I feel like you got fat is what that is. That's what that tells me. That response tells me.
That's what I was essentially getting from the question. It wasn't phrased immediately great, but let's get into it. In that sense of it, let's start with Canyon. Start us off. What's your top 10?
Yeah, so let me take you guys through my top 10, and then you guys can kind of critique it, and then I'll let you guys give us yours, and we kind of break it down as we go through. So at the top, I don't think there's going to be much debate here. I ranked mine mostly based on this year's performance that's not true, like a 60-40 between this year's performance and like future performance. At the top, I had Stan. I think that's pretty obvious, and I can't imagine you guys are going to have a different ranking there. Dad has 7 players in the top 30, which is honestly just absurd. He's dunking on our entire league right now. And quite frankly, yes, he's one of the older teams in the league. He's like the 3rd oldest team. But he has some young dudes like Tyrese Maxey. And honestly, he's got DeJounte Murray. He's got Domantas Sabonis. So he has some young core to take him to the future. In second place, as much as it hurts me in my soul to put Josh second, I have Josh as the second best team. Again, 4 players in the top 30. I think honestly, Josh, that Anthony Edwards pick is really what put you over the top. As well as your vicious wrecking of David in the trade where you gave him Brandon Ingram for Christian Wood. And although Colin Sexton has been
he's out for the season, man.
Yeah.
And Christian Wood's only that good because he's on Houston. Once he goes to a real team, stats are dropping through the floor.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, I feel like I gifted you your team because I didn't take Joel Embiid, and you get Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid. So whatever. You took advantage.
So you're welcome, Josh.
Yeah, you're welcome. Basically, I made your team.
I took advantage. Basically, what you're saying is I took advantage of your poor decision making.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
That's fine.
Almost in a way that doesn't make me look as bad.
It's almost like you've been around the guy for a while, so you know when he's making poor decisions.
In third place, I had Tony. Honestly, Tony has the second best record right now. The only reason I didn't put him above you is just he has a very old team. He's the second oldest team. He does have LaMelo, which I think that's a young superstar who's going to be good for a long time and is likely going to be the cornerstone of the Charlotte franchise. So I don't think he has too much to worry about in terms of he's got some youth there, but he needs more than just one guy. In fourth, I have Dustin. Dustin is the 3rd youngest team, and he's still putting up top half points. I think he's 6th or 7th in total in points for. Plus, he hasn't even had Zion playing yet, which is just terrifying to think of. So he's going to get better as the season goes on, assuming that Zion is not crippled for the rest of his life. In fifth, I had Tyler. I really like Tyler's team, actually. It's an older team. He's the 5th oldest team in the league. He's got 3 players in the top 30, but I mean, Giannis is a beast. To be quite frank, Giannis could do more. He actually doesn't play that many minutes for a superstar, like who their team is riding on him. So in theory, his production could get even higher, which is crazy. He's got Tyrese Halliburton, who could get better. He's got some young guys. He doesn't have any young superstars unless Kuminga turns out to be a superstar, which I don't know. I mean, I like Kuminga, so we'll see.
Or Ayton.
Yeah, or Aiden. That's true.
Or Halliburton could.
Yeah, I think all three of those guys. He's got some good young talent, which I like. Right behind him, and I know it will pain Jared to hear this, that I ranked him lower than his brother, but I ranked Jared right below Tyler, mainly just because he only has one player in the top 30 on his entire team. Now, granted, I think that will change. That didn't include Kristaps, and Kristaps has been playing out of his mind recently.
He's injured again, isn't he?
It's like a finger thing, though, right? I don't think it's significant.
An ankle.
Oh, that's
you kind of need those to move on the basketball court.
You do.
What does an ankle do?
But really? I was watching Kristaps the other night. He looks sick. In seventh, I put myself. I have the youngest team. I also only have one player in the top 30. But I mean, Evan Mobley looks like he's going to be a generational talent. And I got a few guys that I really do believe in. I do expect things to start to peak. I might have peaked the first week. Let's put it that way. So I don't expect to win anything this season. In eighth, I have Clay. He's going to be a little salty to hear that I rank myself above him, given that he's the defending champ. But I think his record this year shows that last year was a little fluky.
I am shocked looking at Clay's team that he won last year. I don't know how this happened.
I kind of agree, but I will say, in his defense, Clay has one of the youngest teams in the league, and he's got Ja Morant, who is a bona fide superstar. So I believe in the future of his team, and he has Trae Young. That's true. So does Trae adjust to the new rules.
The thing I would say about Clay, though, is he did just get married, and as David is an indication, early on in the league, he was pretty good. This year, it kind of sucked. So he got married. I'm seeing
start to lose that focus. Misplaced priorities.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. You and I are lonely and single, and thus very good at fantasy basketball.
Obviously, God forbid.
Josh has success. You have potential success, Katie.
So I'm lonely, single, and not good at fantasy basketball. Is what I just.
Yeah, but you got potential.
Okay.
Potential. That's all that matters.
You're a hipple.
I'll take it. And in ninth, and this might be a bit of a shocker, I actually have Kobe's team. He's the sixth youngest team. I love Darius Garland. I actually still like Ben Simmons, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell. I think he's got a good core that's going to grow to even produce more in the future. I mean, if the dude would just log in his players more often, I think he'd win more games. Jalen Suggs.
Ben Simmons is injured. I mean, he'll eventually play.
Yeah, I like.
Sorry, I said injured. He's not injured.
No, you should say.
Depends on if the brain's that something you consider an injury. I don't know.
Speaking of Ben Simmons, I saw an article the other day that literally he is coming back because he's going broke. I don't know how valid it was. It was from some sort of some sports blog or something like that. But yeah, so I think he's going to have to come back sometime pretty soon, even if it is just to Philadelphia.
Something's got to give.
Yeah, I would agree. If he ever wants to date Kylie Jenner, he's got to make a little bit more money than what he has right now.
So Kylie Jenner?
No, he just wants to be. Yeah, it seems like he's that type of dude. Wants to be he wants to be one of the Kardashians.
Join that Chris Humphries.
So in last place, or I guess in 10th place, because we have a 14-team league. In 10th place, I put Kara. She's got a solid two-man core in Kyrie and Kawhi. Unfortunately, both those guys are not playing right now, which is really hurting her performance this season. But she also picked up Devin Vassell, which I like. She's got some other good young players, and her core isn't that old. So I think she'll age well. Admittedly, I will say her team as a whole is kind of old. She's actually the fourth oldest team, but a lot of that is because she has some older role players that she could replace with younger guys in the draft over the next couple of years.
Barnes.
Yeah, she's got some really solid young core guys, and her top performers are really not that old. So that's my
top performers are like middle of their prime, pretty much.
Also, I mean, let's talk. We don't spend enough time talking about Devin Vassell. I feel like we should get into talking about Devin. The other,
We never cover this guy.
We never cover it.
We've never spent 9 minutes of a whole podcast on WSL.
But Kenny, I'm going to be honest. I don't have much negative feedback for your list, except that you left me out. I don't know what you're thinking. You probably just forgot that my team exists.
I'm going to be totally honest, David. I don't think your team's in the top 10. Sorry, buddy.
Unbelievable.
But that's my list. David, you're welcome to go next if you'd like.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
Well, 1 second before we go that, I have a couple things that on the just to correct you a little bit, and it does have to pertain to Demsel, is she didn't actually pick up Demsel. Kara picked him in the draft 2 years ago, and it was from the recommendation of yours truly. So I would like to
not true at all.
But if she did, then she dropped him because I put in a bid to pick him up.
Yeah. She picked him up on the waiver wire, so you don't know what you're talking about.
No, she did draft him. She must have dropped him and then picked him back up.
She may have, but she picked him up off the waiver wire this year.
Interesting.
In the end, Josh, your advice amounted to nothing.
All
right. So let's move on to my top 10 list. So mine's actually, I'd say, pretty similar to Canyon's with at least one major caveat. But I'm not going to let you know what that is until we get there. So starting at the top 10, I have Stan at number 1. Agree with all of what Canyon said. I think Stan's the favorite to win this year. He may run into some issues in, 3 years from now or so, but who cares if you win 3 championships in a row? Next up, I have Josh at number 2. Same points that Canyon made. I think he definitely has a chance to knock Stan off. All it takes is a single injury or something weird to happen, and Stan's team could not be as good. In third, I have Dustin. So that's a slight differentiation from Canyon's. I put Dustin at 3 because right now his team isn't as good, but once he gets his team healthy and once they mature throughout the season, I think he'll have a better chance of beating Stan and Josh than Tony does. And then at number 4, I have Tony. That's kind of like my upper tier of these are the guys that I think can win the championship this year. Everyone else, I think we're all screwed. We don't stand a chance unless major things implode. So from here on out, I kind of changed my methodology of ranking. I weighed more heavily towards whose team is better suited to be in a position to contend in a few years. So starting off a list at number 5, I have
So wait, I want to interrupt here. So what I just heard before you say your team is that after I got out of the top tier, I changed the methodology so that I would be ranked next.
Hey, man.
Go ahead.
Hey, man. I mean, there were no criterias here. I just, I wanted to get a top 10 that made sense. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And that would make sense to the masses. So at number 5, of course, I have myself. I think my team is primed to contend in about 5 years and will not stand a chance until then. I think my team has a lot of young talent. Everyone that is in there, that my top performers right now are all under 25 years old. And then I have a lot of injuries as well. I have Jonathan Isaac at 24, who hasn't played at all. He's injured. Onyeku Kongwu, who I think has potential to pan out in 5 years. I have Klay Thompson, who's coming off injury. So, maybe he'll be performing well then still, or I trade him off to get some value in return. Marvin Bagley, only 22, Luka, Cole Anthony, blah, blah, blah. Franz Wagner, mini LeBron, no big deal. So at number 6, I have Kobe's team. A lot of the same points as Canyon. Looking at Kobe's team, if I can find his tab. Yeah, so he has a lot of youth on his team as well as a couple top performers right now, Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. OG Anunoby, Miles Turner, Darius Garland. These guys are all 25 or younger. He also has Jalen Suggs, who I think is going to end up being great long-term. Ben Simmons hasn't played at all. And some good role players from there. Maybe a Killian Hayes pans out. Jeremy Grant's doing all right. Yeah. Moving on from him, I have Canyon's team. I think Canyon's kind of in the same boat as my team and Kobe's team. Doesn't really stand a chance until a few years from now. Right after Canyon, and all the points Canyon made as well. I think I'm blanking on his name, but the rookie in Cleveland. What's his name, Canyon? You love him.
Mobley, my boy.
Evan Mobley.
The savior, as we call him in Canyon Teamland.
That dude does look like he's going to be pretty good.
He's going to be good.
He's looking pretty decent. Plus, you have a lot of injuries that could pan out in a few years, too. Jalen Green, Patrick Williams, James Wiseman. So I think you'll be there for quite a few years. After Canyon, I have Jared, who's kind of in the same boat as Kobe, myself, and Canyon. He's got some talent and Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. I'd put Kristaps there, but I don't trust the guy. He's always injured. Who knows? Maybe Kristaps will retire in 5 years.
You're listing Jared. You're listing Jared's team's members. You were talking about Kobe.
Oh, I moved on from Kobe. After Kobe was you, and I talked about you. If you remember.
Got it. Sorry.
Canyon.
I'm dumb.
And then after you,
I was so high from you.
Canyon blacked out.
Yeah, I blacked out.
Oh my God, David ranks me in the top half of the league. Oh, this is all I wanted. Let's end the podcast now.
Yeah. This is going up on the internet, so I'm super happy right now.
Perfect. So on Jared's team, he has a good mix of proven talent right now, but still pretty young, and Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell. He does have a few guys that are getting a little older, like Drew Holiday, and basically the whole bottom half of his team is above 30 or just not that good. But he does have some young talent in Josh Giddey, Mo Bamba, Taylor Horton Tucker, SGA. So I think he'll be there for a while as well. After Jared, I have Clay. Basically exactly the same reasons that you already listed and that I just said for Jared. Trae Young, Ja Morant, proven superstars right now. Collins, Fox, Markkanen, all kind of in a tier below. Michael Porter Jr. is injured for this year, but he'll be back and he'll probably return to form. And he has a lot of other young talent as well. Underneath Clay, I have my last one. My last one. I went ahead and I put Trent here. I put him down because Nikola Jokic is just killing it, and even in 5 years he'll only be 31, so he'll still be killing it. And he has an old man's game already, so he's not slowing down. My concern with his team, though, and the reason I put him at 10 and not any higher, is because his next two best players are Jimmy Butler and Paul George, who are entering the upper years of their prime. They'll probably be exiting their prime in a couple years, maybe 3 years. And his fifth best player is Andre Drummond, which, I don't even know what to think of this guy. Is he going to stick around? Is he going to be a perpetual backup? I don't know. Tyler Hero's nice, though. Keldon Johnson, PJ Washington, DeAnthony Melton. Those are all real young guys that I think are going to pan out. So, yeah, that's why I put him at 10.
So I want to point out something, and I've been graciously enough to let you finish your list, but not only what Canyon said was true, that you completely changed the latter half of yours to put yourself first, but also, David, I just want to point it out that there are about 7 different teams that have almost 500 more fantasy points this year than you. So, now, I'm just saying, 5 years from now, yes, maybe you'll be good. But putting it on a top 10, with the audacity to say put yourself at the top of the latter 5.
Right now, right now, I am the second to worst team in terms of points generated. However, Luka Doncic, he's in a new system with Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd will be fired in 2 years, and then Luka Doncic will thrive again. I haven't been subbing my players in every night because I know I don't stand a chance at the championship. So I'm just waiting to get that first overall pick. That's my strategy here.
I just want to note the commissioner is on this podcast, and he just heard he just heard you admit bold-facedly that you are tanking on purpose, and you will be punished for that.
Whoa. And I talked about how I have all sorts of injuries right now, and maybe a few underperformers like Brandon Ingram that I think are going to turn it around. Jaylen Brown's been injured half the season as well. So, my points for can be deceiving.
I move that we move on to Josh's, so we give David no more airtime on this podcast. Then he's already tainted the entire sanctity of the top 10 with his disgusting methodology.
I mean, I'm a clear number 5. I don't know what the problem is.
Clearly, obviously. Also, I just want to put a wrench in your little plan. The commission actually put in the rules that you have to have the play-in tournament at the end to get the first. So you still have to beat players to get the first pick.
Like I said, I got the talent, dude. I got the talent. I just need to make sure I don't finish top 4.
Josh, this is disgusting. We need to give him no more time.
This is great. This is actually fantastic. This is what the people want. So, all right. What I'm going to do for mine. So I'm going to start it off tried and true. Top 10. Number 1, Dad. Stan Salty Sea Dogs. I love saying that. What can I say that hasn't already been said about him? He has 8,958 fantasy points. That is 958 more than the next guy down. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, mass off a little there, but yeah.
So where I disagree with both of y'all, that I don't think that I am the second, which I know is surprising.
Wow, so modest.
I'm so humble. So humble. Thank you. I mean,
you probably didn't even make the top 10.
The people speak for me, and you know what? I don't necessarily disagree or agree, but for my top 10s, I put Tony. He's just been he's been doing more consistent than I am. I've had a couple good weeks, and then I've had a couple low weeks. He's just consistently through the board. I do have myself right under him at 3rd. But then going on to that, this is where my list really switches up from y'all. So I actually have Jared at 4th. The reason being is Jared's team, Kristaps Porzingis, is just going nuts.
Can't be trusted. Oh.
Well, I think both Kenan and I agree that as he said in a few previous podcast, that Kristaps was hurt. And he had some sort of like hip thing that he just never felt really healthy. And that's what contributed to him playing kind of subpar at Dallas thus far. Well, he's got an ankle injury. Everyone and their dog in the training office knows how to fix an ankle.
Hey, man, I played soccer with some injured ankles. Next thing I knew it, I popped the groin muscle, hip injury.
Are you David millionaire?
David now thinks he's a professional athlete in addition to the fifth best team.
Well, let's be honest. Soccer is more taxing than basketball. I think we all can agree on that.
Yeah, but I know you when you were in high school. I knew you when you were in high school, David. I know what you probably did is you twisted it and then just sat on the couch for 3 weeks. And you're like, why isn't it better? That's not what Kristaps is going to be doing. All right. I feel like Jared, I will point out that not only this is just a gut feeling of mine, but as the numbers go, he has 7,481 points, which is leaps and bounds.
Loaded.
Yeah, he's currently 4th in points for in our league. It's kind of an aberration that he's 2 and 4 right now. He should be a lot higher.
It's an aberration,
it's bloated, man.
But it also has to do with matchups. That's the reason that it goes. But true. I would just say that his team, his record shows that has not reflected what his team is playing currently at the moment. And also the other night, D'Angelo Russell. Sorry, my dog is being.
Oh, was that your stomach?
That's my dog.
Was that your butt?
That was my butt. Sorry, I farted, guys. All right,
share it with the world.
We'll cut that out. No. D'Angelo Russell and who else was on his team that had a 50-point night the other night? D'Angelo Russell and Cat? I think it was Cat.
Mo Bamba. Oh, Mo Bamba.
Oh,
like 6 blocks and 20 rebounds and
that's what it was. It was
15
Mo Bamba
points or something,
which is ridiculous. Mo Bamba was off. He was off. I'll move on, but it's just ridiculous that D'Angelo Russell, Mo Bamba, these two guys that the league cares that isn't that good. They're having 50-point nights out here. I think Jared's team is going to just go back up. And everyone says, as Canyon says a lot of the time, regular season doesn't really matter. All that matters is playoffs. And I feel like I would hate to see Jared at this point in the playoffs. So that's why I put him just below me.
Me too, but for a different reason.
Next one down the line is Tyler. Tyler's Fanatical Figs. Love it. Tried and true name. Good job, Tyler. I put him. Jared's gonna like it because now I put him below him, whereas Canyon had it the opposite.
Me too. I didn't even have him in my top 10.
Good. This is good for him. It lowers his ego down. So I put him in my top 5 just because he has got the numbers. He's got the record to show for it. He's had good success, consistent success. I just don't think that he'll be able to keep it up as much as the regular season goes. And I thought he got a little bit lucky with some of the numbers. But then going off, and this is where I really rustled with the 6th is Dustin. I totally agree with what y'all are saying as far as Zion needing to come back. But I mean, one of the guys that was playing so good at the beginning of the year that contributed a lot to his
Miles
record,
Bridges.
and it's not Miles Bridges is still doing great. I mean, but Kevin
Slowed
Porter
down a
Jr.
little.
Kevin Porter Jr. is now not in the starting 5. They're reducing his minutes, and John Wall is set to come back. So Kevin Porter Jr. is going to have way less minutes even.
John Wall's only coming back so they can trade him.
Stay tuned for a future episode where we discuss that.
So that's why I think
spoilers.
while he's kind of everything weighs on everything. I don't know what the word I'm trying to say.
Hinges on
everything hinges. Thank you. That's why you're my guy.
On Kevin Porter?
Everything hinges on Zion coming back for him to be a top 4 contender. In my mind.
Kevin Porter, as soon as he moved to the bench, he's had 48 points and 38 fantasy points. It's his 2 best games. So
he's
could be a good move.
Well, I mean, if he's getting the minutes, then maybe my point of view is not valid.
Wrong.
But I don't think he's getting the minutes. So the next one down is Canyon's Perfect Dimes. So Canyon,
that's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. Perfect dimes. What does that mean? What does that even mean?
Like a dime is like an assist, and like
a dime piece. Like
it's because he has
time.
Also,
I'm objectifying my players because they're nice and sexy.
Yeah. Dame is he was in like a Vogue commercial.
Plus, it's also a play on my best player. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a terrible name. I agree. It's a terrible name. I couldn't think
Dames equal.
So new ranking. We're doing top 10 best names. Okay, Canyon's is at the bottom. He's not even on the list.
If we're gonna keep this episode anywhere near 30 minutes, we got to get to voting pretty soon.
Okay. So I got Canyon, and then next one down is Clay. I feel like Canyon and Clay to me could have swapped. The only reason I put Canyon a little bit better is I think he does have more future value than Clay. And he's obviously got the minutes or the points even. Ken is 200 and 220 points better than Clay.
Off a fluke.
Yeah. Well, he did have I think your first week.
In Clay's defense, and he'll get angry at me if I don't say this on the podcast. He does have an absurd points against. Like if you look at how many points have been scored against him this season, like you talk about the gap between Dad and the number 2 player in points for, like Clay has 8,300 points scored against him. The next highest is Trent at just under 7,600. So like Clay's team should be performing better this season than 1-5, and I expect that record will start to even out.
Yeah, he's right. He's right in the middle of our league in terms of points scored.
Sorry, I interrupted.
His record definitely doesn't. It shows him being over the bot. It doesn't reflect how good his team is. And we give Clay, if you're watching this, we give you a lot of crap, but your team actually does have some good talent.
Yeah, we're all just salty because you won last year. So
yeah,
we hate you.
To be honest, I didn't even remember you won. So
that's how forgettable you are to me. I don't even think about it.
I was really wondering. I was like, how do I view who won last year? Did I win? The one thing I know is Jared didn't win. So.
I just love that David goes immediately. Did I win? Did I just win? Because
you know how when things happen so often that eventually it's just no big deal. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. All right. Then my last 2 are Kara's Care Bears and Trent's Woeful.
Unbelievable. I'm not in this top 10 again. Y'all's scoring metrics are very flawed.
I actually didn't even look at. Oh, would you look at that? Actually. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Unbelievable. So I did wrestle with you a little bit, David.
Yeah, we did.
Between Trent and you. The only thing is, I actually think that Trent has more points than you, fantasy points this year. He's just the same as Clay, got in poor matchups, and I don't know. I just like his team a little bit better. He just has a good, solid team, and I think he's got a little bit more promise, at least for now. But
let's be honest. David didn't deserve to be anywhere near this list. He just changed the rules. So let's get to voting time.
Let's get to voting.
Kick him off the end of the vote.
All right, guys.
All right, David.
Our podcast voting. This is going to be where we all take our votes together, and we'll form the top 10 list for the podcast as a whole. We take all of our viewpoints into account. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to all of us will raise our hands until we hear something that we disagree with. So let's all start out with our hands raised. Raise your hands. Let's start off with Stan's team. Who thinks Stan's team is the best? Okay, everyone's hand is raised. Let me go ahead and jot this down just so I have the list. Next up, everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Josh's team is better than Stan's team? Everyone lowered their hand. So we have Josh at number 2, Stan still at number 1. Let's move on to Tony's team. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Tony's team is better than Josh's team? I lowered my hand, and so did Canyon. Only Josh kept his hand up. So Josh, you're outvoted. Tony's team is number 3. Let's move on to Dustin's team. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Dustin's team is better than Tony's team? Only I still have my hand raised. Canyon and Josh lowered their hands. So I'm outvoted. Dustin's team is the new number 4 or new bottom. Yeah, new bottom. All right, let's move on to the clear 5th best team. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks David's team is better than Dustin's team? Everyone lowered their hand, which is expected because I'm the 5th best, and that was the 5th point. So here's where it'll get interesting. We'll move on to the next team. Everyone raise your hand.
Interesting.
Until you disagree. Who thinks Kobe's team is better than David's team? Okay, I lowered my hand. Canyon and Josh kept their hand lowered. Who thinks, everyone keep your hand raised until you hear something you disagree with. Who thinks Kobe's team is better than Dustin's team? Josh and Canyon lowered their hands. So we have Kobe above David, but below Dustin. Let's move on to Canyon. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Canyon's team is better than David's team? Only I lowered my hand, y'all cowards. All right. Who thinks Canyon's team is better than Kobe's team? Josh lowered his hand. So we have Canyon ahead of David, but below Kobe. Now we'll move on to Jared. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Jared's team is better than David's team? Only I lowered my hand again. Who thinks Jared's team is better than Canyon's team? Okay, Josh and Canyon are still raised. Who thinks Jared's team is better than Kobe's team? Everyone's still raised. Who thinks Jared's team is better than Dustin's team? Only Josh's hand's raised. So we have a new number 5. Jared is under Dustin. Now let's move on to Clay's team. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Clay's team is better than David's team? Oh, y'all jerks.
We can just skip David's team from here.
This is like, let's just skip it.
No, this is good. Who thinks Clay's team is better than Canyon's team? Okay. So we have Clay under Canyon, but above David. Move on to Trent's team. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Trent's team is better than David's team? Josh, your hand's off the screen. Okay, I lowered my hand. Everyone else kept their hand raised. Who thinks Trent's team is better than Clay's team? Josh lowered his hand. So we now have Trent above David, but below Clay. Let's move on to Kara. Everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Kara's team is better than David's team? Cowards. Who thinks Kara's team is better than Trent's team? Everyone still has their hand raised. Who thinks Kara's team is better than Clay's team? Canyon and Josh lowered their hand. Okay, let's move on to Tyler's team. Who thinks, everyone raise your hand. Who thinks Tyler's team is better than David's team? I lowered my head. Who thinks Tyler's team is better than Trent's team? Everyone's hand is still raised. Who thinks Tyler's team is better than Kara's team? Everyone's hand is still raised. Who thinks Tyler's team is better than Clay's team? Still raised. Who thinks Tyler's team is better than Canyon's team? Still raised. Who thinks Tyler's team is better than Kobe's team? Still raised. Who thinks Tyler's team is better than Jared's team? Josh lowered his hand, but Canyon kept his raised. So Tyler will go under Jared, but above Kobe.
Yes. He wouldn't have gone one step. He wouldn't.
Hold on. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
He was going to lose the neck going for me anyway.
12. Okay.
Yeah. Can't believe I'm advocating this much for Tyler. I was like, you go, girl. Keep going up there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but none of us had Cameron or Jonathan in our top 10s, correct?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, so we can end the list there. Our list as a podcast stands at Stan number 1, Josh number 2, Tony number 3, Dustin number 4, Jared number 5, Tyler number 6, Kobe 7, Canyon 8, Clay 9, Kara 10. Trent, you dropped off to 11 and we'll never know about me.
I'm just clapping that David didn't make the top 10.
I was going to say, that's great.
Unbelievable.
All right, cool.
Yeah, cowards. That's what y'all are.
Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.